doing now is changing guitars. I'm going to do a slow song. It's called Operator. That's not the way it feels. I don't know how many times you've seen people talking on the telephone. It just seems like so many of the messages are always the same. We've all been through that same kind of feeling.
If you ask the question, who's going to be on a little airplane in the middle of the night taking off in a storm or under unfavorable conditions, the answer turns out to be people who have an audience waiting for them the next day.
He's one of those overnight successes who only took 12 years to make it. But during that time, when he wasn't driving a truck, he was teaching special education and entertaining the bar and beer pitcher set. I guess you could say he's a man of the people. Maybe that's why he writes about them so well. Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Croce.
As you said, he had a conflicted relationship with fame. Was a more genuine person, not that comfortable with the BS and the image stuff.
You know, it's so much relaxing, too, to be in these kind of clothes. I don't usually get dressed up. The last time I got dressed up was a few years ago when I bought one of those big, long, fringed leather jackets with the fringes that hang down to the ground. And I went out to New York City one day with a guitar, jumped in the cab, and when I went to get out, I closed my fringes in the cab door. And if you've ever seen anybody in a world of trouble, you should have seen me with one hand with a guitar in it, one arm in the cab door with all my fringes stuck, and me banging on the window and running at 15 miles an hour. It was really something.
Don't you know that I gotta get out of here, 'cause New York's not my home.
Well, you were a very good friend of his. Where was he at in his own head at this point? What was he thinking?
Jim really loved what he was doing. He really liked to sing. He liked to perform. He liked to write. The only negative in the whole thing was that he wanted to get off the road a bit, and plans were being made toward that end.
This is another one of those character songs. I got out of a university in 1965. Totally prepared for life in the 12th century. Kind of looked around here, looked around there, and then I got this brown letter in the mail one day, signed by a general. Said, "Come play with us." So I went down to a place called Fort Jackson in South Carolina, where they took my extensive college experience and put me into the infantry. As a lineman, I climbed telephone poles. It was communications. Stringing that wire from one place to another. And I met this guy down there who was in the company. His name was Leroy Brown. Now, Leroy was one of those guys that didn't know the meaning of no. You tell Leroy to do one thing, and Leroy would do another thing. He was just one of those kind of characters. He come from Chicago, been out in the street a long time, and had to make his own way. So he was about to keep on making it. He was down there a couple weeks, and he looked at me one night. We're sitting talking. He says, "You know, Jim, I don't like this place, and I'm going to go home." So he got himself packed up, and he went home without telling anybody. Except in the Army, they call that AWOL, absent without leave. But he did come back at the end of the month to get his paycheck. And that was it. Snap put him in the handcuffs and took him away, but didn't bother him. He got out a little later and still hung around. He was always the kind of guy that would keep people laughing, unless he got in trouble with him. And this is a tune I wrote about him, just called Bad, Bad Leroy Brown.
Well, the south side of Chicago is the baddest part of town. And if you go down there, you better just beware of a man named Leroy Brown. Now, Leroy, more in trouble. See, he stand about 6'4". All the downtown ladies call him treetop lover. All the men just call him sir. And he's bad, bed. Leroy Brown, the baddest man in the whole damn town. Better than old King Kong, and meaner than a junkyard dog.
Jim had been out in front of the public for about a year and a half, and the past 6 months, in the last 6 months of his career, was really starting to break out as a concert attraction and as a record seller. He had had about 4 or 5 hit singles in a row, notably Leroy Brown, which went #1 in the middle of July. And then there was a TV movie in which a song called Time in a Bottle was used as a soundtrack.
Like pine trees lining the winding road, I got a name, I got a name. Like the singing bird and the croaking toad, I got a name, I got a name. And I carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream.
And that was in the middle of September. And right after that movie was shown, there was a tremendous groundswell of people buying that Croce album and everything Jim was putting out up until that point. And then 8 days later, he died in the plane crash.
Sometimes I think about our good old high school days. You would always kid about my adolescent ways. Oh, Mary,
a beautiful artist who we miss very much. Here's how he appeared in concert at Royce Hall, UCLA. Jim Croce.
Haven't seen too many of the old crew. The time just flew. And how are you?
I'm Jim Croce, and I live here. You know, I've spent about 10, 11 years playing in bars, fraternity parties, doing rock and roll, country and western, bluegrass. That screaming you're hearing back in there is my little boy Adrian James trying to sing.
A.J. Croce lost his father before he turned 2, his sight when he was 4, and later his home to fire, and his wife to a rare heart condition.
When we lose someone we love, whether it was my father, my wife, my sight, we can decide how we want to bring it into our life. Do we want to dwell on it? Do we want to find the best part of that person, that experience, and keep it with us?
Is there any song of your dad's that has more meaning than another?
Yeah, certainly Time in a Bottle. Incredibly emotional.
Why?
Well, because, you know, it was written for me, and it sums up this emotion that he felt for my mother and for myself.
But there never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I looked around enough to know that you're the one I want to go through time with.
A hero is usually someone from the past. And it's very fashionable since the 60s to take any revered figure and destroy them. It's not an optimistic time right now. One of the things missing are heroes. Who do we really look to from the past as unimpeachably valuable human beings? And the answer is fewer and fewer. So when we find someone like Jim Croce, I mean, he seems to have been a very good human being in addition to being an artist, which is not usually the case. This guy's a kind of heroic figure and also tragic.
There never seems to be enough time to do the things you want to do once you find them. I've looked around enough to know you're the one I want to go through time with.
Jim Croce.
Jim Croce.
Jim Croce.
Jim Croce.
Jim Croce.
I'm Jim Croce. I'd like to introduce my band over here. An acoustic guitar and acoustic guitar. Two different guitars. Maury Muleisen. That's Maury.
Night is falling and the dawn is calling. I'll have a new day if she'll have me. Hey, tomorrow I can't show you nothing. You've seen it all, pass by your door. So many times I said I've been changing, then slipped into patterns of what's happened before. 'Cause I've been wasted and I've overtasted all the things that life gave to me. And I've been trusted, abused and busted, and I've been taken by those close to me. Hey, tomorrow, you've gotta believe that I'm through wasting what's left of me. Night is falling and the dawn is calling. I'll have a new day if she'll have me. 'Cause I've been wasted, I've overtasted all the things that life gave to me. And I've been trusted, abused and busted, and I've been taken by those close to me. Hey, tomorrow, where are you going? Do you have some room for me? Night is falling and the dawn is calling. I'll have a new day if she